Hey, Nicole Roberts Jones here, and welcome to another episode of the Meaningful Work Podcast. Now, I got to tell you, this conversation is probably going to be one that might step on your toes a little bit. Some of you might be in denial, but I want to tell you with LOVE. I heard Michael Jackson say that once on an interview, so I say it all the time now, by the way. Trying to tell you with LOVE, some of you are so focused on being booked and busy that you're leaving out the whole notion that your body needs to rest. Or some of you are feeling guilty because you're not booked and busy. And rest is what God is trying to let you do in this moment of time in your life. So, our guest today is going to go all the way in, and her name is Brooke Daniels. Now, Brooke is the founder of Holistic Hustler. Love that. Holistic Hustler. Love that. A wellness practice dedicated to helping individuals and organizations overcome burnout and achieve sustainable success through neuroscience based techniques, meditation, and mindfulness. A certified meditation instructor and executive coach, as if that isn't enough. She's also the co founder of Project Wellspring, an initiative aimed at, y'all ready for this? Closing the $4.4 trillion annual opportunity gap for underinvested groups by fostering equitable capital access and collaboration. With 15 years of experience in Silicon Valley, including leadership roles at Salesforce Ventures, Brooke has a strong focus on inclusive innovation, mentoring at Techstars and Pharrell Williams Black Ambition, and serving on various committees aimed at diversifying the investment landscape. So she knows both hustle and she knows why you've got to be holistic as you do it. So, y'all, help me welcome Ms. Brooke. Hey, girl.
Hey, I'm excited to be here today.
So excited, so excited. So, can you share with us, listen to the second part of your bio. And by the way, y'all, that isn't all her bio. That was the highlights because there's so much more than that. Okay. So, listening to, this whole fight for equity for us, right? Which is a full-time job by itself, but that is not all you do. You also have this other piece. Share with the listeners how you even got to this whole need to be a holistic hustler. I love that, by the way. I'm going to say that as much as I can in this episode.
Thank you, Dr. Nicole, and super excited to be here today. I like including a full bio because I feel like it's a false misconception that when you believe in wellness and a holistic approach, people think that equates to like just this quote unquote soft, easy life. It's like, no, you can be ambitious, you can have big goals, you can want to do a lot of things and have a big impact, but still approach it holistically. So that's why I like to include the full bio. So before I speak, people know like, I am with you. I'm booked and busy. I'm going to continue to be booked and busy. I got big goals and dreams, and I am putting that work into.
Yeah, yeah. And so, how did you get to the understanding that you can be booked and busy, but you got to do it holistically?
So, unfortunately, my story is not uncommon to most people in that it started with burnout, right? And I know if you listen to Brene Brown, all these people that speak, unfortunately, most of us had to hit rock bottom before we could kind of start to swim a different way and come up. And so for me, this was back in, gosh, what was it, 2019. I hit the worst burnout of my life. So it was actually pre-COVID. I was traveling 70% of the time. My husband is a small business owner, so I can also relate from that perspective. We were running the business, working in corporate. I teach dance part-time, all the things. And it just got to a point where these hustle strategies I had been using for so long no longer worked. And again, I've been doing this my whole life. In high school, I was in like 18 clubs my senior year. I graduated college early. So this was how Brooke got stuff done. And fundamentally, it just stopped working at a point. I was exhausted. I couldn't focus. I don't know if anyone's experienced sitting in front of the computer for hours, but not being able to move the needle. You just rereading and rereading and rereading. And so I just hit a place where I just knew those strategies weren't working anymore. And so that led me to go to Oprah. Oprah was on tour right before COVID, and she talked about living life in the flow. And she was like, if you feel like every step you take is a struggle, like if you're just pushing and pushing and pushing, life doesn't have to be that way. You can actually flow to success and you can actually get there a lot faster. And so that just resonated with me when I heard Oprah say it. She led a little meditation there, and that started my journey of the meditation. She did several series with Deepak Chopra. And so I started doing those. The first one was like Hope in Uncertain Times. And then she had a couple other ones she released on being in the flow. And even from the first moment I meditated, I felt immediate relief and just peace in a way I had never felt it before. And when you experience that feeling, you want more of it. And so that led to my journey of becoming a meditator and then starting to go to meditation retreats. I love what Deepak Chopra does. And so he became my guru. And then on the heels of that, after a year and a half on my journey, I wanted to help other people because I looked around the room, all my sisters, my friends that were doing this work. And I think especially when you're doing work that you're passionate about, that's like impact driven,
Yeah.
right? Like everyone's trying to solve these problems they care very, very deeply about. You can overgive without filling your own cup. And so I wanted to bring that to my community as well. And that's when I decided to certify as a coach. And then Holistic Hustler bloomed out of then layering on the neuroscience aspect, because that was the other thing I noticed. For some people, meditation can feel quote unquote woo woo, but there are all these, I know you've heard that before, Dr.
Right. That's why I laugh, right?
I don't know, I'm manifesting. What is this about? But there's all this research now from neuroscience that talks about directly what's happening within our brains, our bodies, our systems, fight or flight. And so at Holistic Hustler, we layered in the neuroscience, and we work with a couple of PhDs in neuroscience to add those practices too, to make it more tangible for the audience we serve, which are executives, high powered business folks, just people that have that hustle side, but
Yeah.
want more flow.
And I'm gonna tell you, so the reason I laugh is for a couple of reasons. Number one, so this podcast was birthed out of my burnout. Okay, so you guys know I keep it real on this podcast. So literally last year, and I'm saying this in 2025, y'all. So 2024, at the beginning of 2024, I was sitting at my computer, girl. I had coaching clients, and mind you, before that moment, I loved what I did, and I couldn't do it, and I didn't understand, right? And then what's even funnier is I do these VIP. Well, I used to do these VIP retreats with my clients, and my team would be there and they'd be like, oh, that was so good. And I'm thinking to myself, I want this to be over. I don't want to be here, coaching people. And so I didn't understand that what I was feeling was burnout. I also didn't understand, I need y'all to get this. Sometimes you need to rest. And sometimes God is trying to shift what you're doing. And you've got to sit long enough to understand the difference. So that's part of the reason I laugh. But here's the second part, and I want to talk about this, is sitting quietly. Now, I'm gonna be honest, y'all. I'm a busy bee, so meditation sometimes comes hard for me. So I give myself permission to, if I have thoughts in my mind, I stop, I write them down, and then go back because I have so many things. I get ideas, and I know part of that is God dropping stuff in, but I'm trying to quiet my mind, and sometimes it's harder than others. So, what would you advise people that are having a hard time with this whole notion of meditating? How to get started?
Yes. So, one, that is completely normal and it's a great place to start. And I tell people all the time, like with meditation, it's not something, well, it's something where, same as with water, like if you dip your toe in the pool, you still get wet, right? You don't have to actually get your brain to completely stop and slow down to get the benefits of meditation. Sometimes it really is just closing your eyes and taking that moment of rest where you're stopping the stimulation. And so, even as I'm a spiritual woman of faith, I'm a Christian woman, and a lot of times the people I talk to who are also in the Christian community talk about wanting to be able to hear, but then they never take time to create space to receive. And so you really, exactly what you're saying. If every moment is just fast and moving and you're thinking about the next thing, not only are you not present, but you're also not able to actually listen and receive. And so I like to tell people to just take those moments to pause, even if it's 2 minutes, 5 minutes, to breathe. Walking meditations are also good. So like as you're walking, actually trying to be present in the experience. So looking at the trees around you, what's in the environment, like just grounding yourself so your
Hmm.
brain can just take a moment to rest, and be more optimized. But it is something where we say if you stop thinking completely, you're dead. So you're always thinking. It's like a misconception about meditation that you have to stop thinking, but it's more so taking that time to pause. And I think a lot of people undervalue how impactful even 5 minutes of pause, even if you're sitting in your car before you go in the house with your kids and your partner and everything, just taking those 5 minutes
Yeah.
with the headphones off, the music down, and just breathing and being present in your body and the space, it goes a long way.
So good. And by the way, I write notes. So if you see me looking down, I'm writing notes because I'm a student as well as the host. So the thing I love that you said, and I say this all the time, but you said it in such a profound way. You have to take space to receive. I always say God is not going to show up in your busy. He going to let you be busy. You're going to be busy, being busy, being busy. And listen, if you don't ever stop long enough, there's so much more available to you. And it doesn't have to come with stress. Matter of fact, God is not giving us stress. That's us, right? So I love that. But the other thing I was thinking about too, you said earlier, oh, it just went out of my head. It'll come back. It'll circle back. So let me just ask another question and I'll bring that back when it comes back. So let's talk about breaking free from the narrative of relentless hustle. How did you, or what do you tell your clients, some strategies that to break free from this whole notion that we, especially as Black women, because 80% of my listeners are Black women, so we can keep it real, this whole relentless need for us to hustle.
Yes. I have so much I want to say on this topic. One, I think part of it is just recognizing who we naturally are and approaching everything from a place of gratitude. And so for a lot of, and I don't want to generalize, but I'll speak for myself and a lot of Black women I know personally, we get into what I like to call like warrior overdrive.
Hmm.
And it's been a defense mechanism and it's been required of us, right? Like we have to do everything because there's in a lot of cases no safety net for us, right? Like we provide for ourselves. A lot of us take care of our family and parents, especially if you're one of the higher income first generational folks in your family. That comes with extra burdens. Then you have all the things that you actually want to do and show up for, and it can be a lot. And the only thing we've been taught to do is to lean in and push further, right? Like and we start to develop these mechanisms to help us grind more. One of the first ones is like coffee. Nothing wrong with drinking caffeine unless you're drinking caffeine as a coping mechanism because you just don't get enough sleep, right? So but we introduce these things. For me, it used to be in Manhattan in the evenings. I would get done with my work meetings on travel, 7 o'clock. I had to get into emails, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to treat myself with like a nice meal in a Manhattan, and that's how I'm going to push through another 2 hours of work,
Hmm.
And these things they're not good for us to be in that space. But the first thing I want to say is give yourself gratitude for who you've been to show up to get you to this point. That's step one, number one. Let's release the guilt. Let's release the shame and say, you know what? Actually, thank you, body. Thank you for all the things you did to help me get to this point. But now I know it's something else that's going to take me from B to C, right? They said the things that took you from A to B can't take you from B to C.
Hmm.
And a lot of times when we look at our limits and while we're stuck or while we just can't break free of this upper limit, you're like, I just keep getting here, but I want to get to this next limit. And when we stop and look, it's actually because of blocks that we have within. And some of that just traces back to the hustle culture and the overdrive. You can't be the best version of yourself when you're not rested, when you're not full. And I think this is especially relevant as we think about AI, right? The introduction of AI in all of our lives, which I know we're using, that's only going to continue to increase. Well, what are we going to want from our experiences with people? We're going to want creativity, right? Executive reasoning, true innovation, human experiences, and then compare that to how you feel when you're not rested. So that's the first question I ask people is like, hey, how do you feel when you've only had 4 or 5 hours of sleep?
Hmm.
When you wake up and you immediately check your emails in the morning, right? How do you feel when you've had that quad latte and it's 11 a.m.? Like, do you feel like you're actually showing up at your best? And then when
That's
you've had
good.
that long day and you go home with your family, how are you showing up with your kids? How are you showing up with your partner? And then how does that impact you the next day when you have to go to work because you've had poor relationships, right? It's a cycle.
Hmm.
And I think when we take time to pause, Dr. Nicole, and actually sit back and like get out of our experience enough to look at our experience, people know these things, right? Like
Yeah.
same as what you're saying, you couldn't name the burnout, but you felt it. You knew something wasn't right, but you weren't empowered to make a change. And so that's what I try to do. I try to help people, one, step back and say, let me slow down long enough to just recognize what I'm feeling. And then let me give you new tools that you may not have had access to try something differently. And so that's always the conversation is, are you willing to try things a different way?
Yeah, that's so good. And I'm gonna be honest with you, it took me a year to figure it out. And it took me a year because I kept thinking, oh, I'm just tired. Let me just take an extra day off. And it wasn't just that. I was burned out from the work I was doing. So it wasn't just I was exhausted. It was that too. And the time, the breaks I took were good. But then, if I'm gonna be completely honest, I had surgery at the end, toward the end of last year. I know that was God sitting me all the way down because then I could do nothing for 2 weeks. It was in those 2 weeks that I realized this is bigger than me just being exhausted. And so I'm sharing that with you because Brooke, you're giving some great insight, and I need you guys to get this. Some of you are in this place right now. We're going to talk about at the end how you can reach out to Brooke and the stuff she's doing to support you. But I need you to get. It's not about pushing through. It's about sitting and getting clear with where you are and getting the support you need because it doesn't get better because you push through. Now, The second thing is, I remember what I was going to ask you about earlier. So I love that you said people think meditation is woo woo. And here's the thing that I get from so many people, especially people that are so heavily bound and no earthly good Christians. Now, listen, I'm a Christian, y'all. I'm about to talk about those of you that are so heavily bound, right? That you say things all day long. I'm blessed and highly favored, which is nothing wrong with that. But I need you to understand that meditation is not just attached to yoga and not just attached to Buddhism, and it's beyond that. Now, I know people have asked you about this. Is there any more insight you can give us to that piece as well?
Definitely. And so I won't go too deep because some of the answer of it, I think if you're not past 101 level, I'm going to lose you. Um, but meditation is some of it that the parts that come from India are part of the Vedic tradition, which is not a religion. And
Right.
so I think we have to make the distinction between traditions, right, and cultural experiences versus religion. And so meditation stems from the tradition aspect, not the religion aspect. And then I just like to point out that meditation is in the Bible. Like, how many times in the Bible does God ask us? And, everyone's asking us to just sit and listen and be still. And
Yes.
so, whether we name it as meditation or not, whether you want to embrace the mantra aspect of it. So the style of meditation that I teach does introduce mantras that align to vibrational frequencies. That is all rooted in science. And that's why I like connecting it to science, because if you look at the fact that, and this has been traced to like matter, right? Atoms, the fact that we're all light, if you really get into the science of
Mm,
the fact that our bodies are actually vibrating, but we're only solid because we are vibrating at a slower pace than the speed of light. You don't have to take this from Brooke. This is science. It's in
right.
the books. We're just connecting that to then how we can impact those experiences, right? But even if you don't want to do the mantras, you still get a lot of benefit just from finding the silence. And so I tell people to find what's comfortable for you. There are best practices to meditate, but there's actually no right or wrong way to do it. And
Mm,
it's about your experience and what you're channeling. And so I ask people to kind of open up for that lens
yeah.
and not necessarily having to go, unless you want to, down into the wormhole of the traditions of the. I think that's if you want to go that route. But if you're just starting, you can get so much benefit just
Right.
from finding the silence.
And what's interesting is you're talking what I love that you said there's so many references in the Bible about being still, and there is. But here's the other thing I want you guys to think about. What relationship do you have that you talk all the time and you never listen? It's not a good one. So at some point, you've got to be still so you can hear. You can also fill up your soul, your spirit, so you can continue to do the work you're doing. If you never fill up your car, how do you drive without gas or plug in, depending on what kind of car you have, right? So you've got to plug in your own self to power up. And I always say meditation is how I power up. Now, you listen, I can't meditate for hours. I'm going to be honest. Can't. I give myself 10 to 20 minutes, depending on the day, depending on what's going on in my mind. But you've got to find what that looks like for you so that you can get past just hustle and you could be a holistic hustler. I love that. So, with that, can you give us, for leaders and or organizations, what steps can they take to create a culture that's more holistic than this whole hustle and trying to get to numbers and all that fun stuff?
Great question. I'm glad you asked that. And I can start to go into transition to some more tactical things too that people can take away from it. But step number one is recognizing that we are all individual people, right? Like, we all have different ways to work. We all have things that make us be at our best. And we have to create spaces where we can allow people to show up as their best versus expecting everybody to work in a uniform manner. That's step number one, right? So you have to ask the question, how do you work at your best? What does that even look like? And then we have to respect those boundaries. And so transitioning into more of the neuroscience flow aspect, there's a lot of research that goes into not multitasking. And so part of the work that we do as we teach people about the neuroscience of flow are different exercises like one, turning off the notifications on your phone. Sounds crazy, but you will be amazed at how peaceful life becomes when you don't have all these apps all day pulling. Every time something alerts like that, it pulls you out of flow. So if you're in
Yeah.
a great work cycle, when you're sitting down to do creative work, it might take you like 15 minutes or so to get in, but when you're in it, you're going.
Yeah.
Every time a notification comes off and triggers you, it breaks that flow. It breaks that flow. And so when we're talking about people that are hustlers, that are highly ambitious, driven, got a lot to do, creating those moments of flow will give you way more output than trying to multitask and be, all over the space. And
Oh,
so
good.
back to your question, what does that mean for an organization? Give your workers and your teammates time to get into flow. Everybody needs uninterrupted time to work. The like back to back call, Zoom, death spiral, you're on Slack and all the things. And it is
Right.
not productive. And there's all the research out there that shows that you're not productive doing that versus being in flow. Where you're actually in flow, you can see the your productivity increase by over 50% in a place of flow. And it goes much higher than that. But imagine just that. I can get 50% more done just by creating these spaces where I'm singularly focused on my work versus being pulled off into a million directions. And
And
so
so
creating those
good.
boundaries and honoring each other's boundaries so people know. And Dr. Nicole, you do this too with your email. Your email where you're like, just so you know, I respond to email and you set the expectation. I'm not going to
Mhm.
be in and out trying to answer emails every 30
And can I
seconds.
tell you why I did that? Because
Because
I
I
am someone that I hate when people don't reply to my emails, right? And I don't mean it in a bad way. It'll stay in my mind until whatever I'm working on is closed. I know my assistant hates this about me because I'll say, "Did this happen? Did this happen? What happened? What's the other end?" Because it's still something is done. It stays in my mind, right? So part of my reason for doing that is I close my email, I check my email in the morning, and then I shut it all the way down. And the reason I do that is because every time an email notification pops up, I'm trying to answer it. It's like, Nicole, stop it. Right. So I give myself the grace. Now, do I answer sometimes in the middle of the day? Yeah, sometimes I do. But that's usually because I'm in the middle of one meeting and between the next, and I'm not doing anything at the moment. So I'm like, let me just check my email. Right. But it gives grace that people aren't expecting me to answer. But what's so funny is I'm a part of an organization and we were having this meeting about kind of work-life balance kind of stuff, which I don't believe in that. Those of you that saw that Equalize Your Life episode, I don't believe in work-life balance, no such thing. But one of them was saying she was offended and she got my email, right? She said, but then I realized what you're doing is creating a boundary so that we're not waiting and expecting a reply from you right away. Now, I do reply within 24 hours typically, but it gives me the grace to not feel like I'm leaving people hanging. It gives me the grace to close my email after I check it in the morning, check it one more time before I leave. It gives me the grace because I used to check my emails in the bed at night. My husband be like, really? I don't do any of that anymore. None of it.
listen, when I saw it, I was like, see, I knew Dr. Cole was my people. When I saw it come through, I was like, yes, set your boundary, honor it. Is a great practice to have. Everybody should develop a practice like that, whether it's once a day, twice a day. Emails should not just be because it's going to pull you away from the work you really need to do. And that's part of it as well with flow, right? It's like, and so we do what's called a power down routine every day as a
Mm,
best practice. Because to your point, when you're answering emails at all time of day and at night, you're actually never turned off enough to give your mind, and you don't have time to rest because
right.
you're not really resting. You're answering emails, you're not present, all these things are happening, right? And so you have to find a way to create that boundary and space between work and time to rest because you need that, not just rest, but time to play, time for relationships. That is what makes us whole and who we really are. And
Yeah.
so I love that. The power down routine is, we absolutely recommend it. It's like a 20-30 minute set of routines you do, but it's like anything that's urgent, close it off for the day, right? Any last minute emails that you can do in under a minute, answer them, get away from it. And then you start to look at tomorrow. What are my high value tasks for tomorrow? What are the one or two things that I can do tomorrow that are going to have the most impact on what on moving the ball forward? We spend so much time thinking that we're multitasking and hustle and we're getting nothing done, Dr. Nicole. You spend a whole day and you're like, I was busy, but what did I actually get done?
Right.
Start drifting towards like low hanging fruit and tactical things that aren't moving the needle at all because you just feel like you gotta give into that hustle energy. And it's like, no, it's an overdrive. How do we pause, recognize it? And so in the power down routine, you set yourself up the next day by identifying what are those high value tasks I want to do and making sure your day reflects it. And then at a certain point, you start the next task of the next day. So if you're like, my high value task is a PowerPoint presentation, you go ahead and open that PowerPoint presentation, name it. So when you sit down, it's ready to go. And then you log off, you shut it down. And then for
So
me, I go
good.
into my own meditation practice. I try, and they ask us as a meditation instructor and coach, our personal practice is twice a day. So I try to always wind down as my way of kind of shutting it off and moving away from
Mm,
that into my personal space. I have a 1-year-old at home, so just being present with him and getting into that mindset, and then I can actually rest and get up the next day and do it. But I
yeah.
challenge people to try that, even if you just do it for 48 hours to see how it feels. I guarantee you, you will recognize that most of the things that have you pulled all over the place are actually not that urgent, that you have
Mm.
to respond to them that day.
And it's so good. The other thing that I started doing, I'm gonna tell you guys, because I'd be in the bed all night texting people back and replying to emails, is I put my phone in a whole different room. So at 9 p.m., because I get personal texts, I'm in organizations, so that means that most of those texts come in the evening. At 9 p.m., you can text me at 9:05, and someone's so funny because people will text me the next day, like, I text you last night. I know. Right? Because it was after 9 o'clock and I put my phone, even my mother has texted me. Now, people say, what if it's an emergency? In full disclosure, my iPad will ring, which is, and I do, in the middle of the night because I'm going through menopause. So when I wake up in the middle of the night, I listen to something, I put a video or some training in to help me fall asleep, or some meditation music will help me fall back asleep. So that's why my iPad is there. But unless it's an emergency, I'm not answering that either. And it's become such a routine for me, and it's made it so easy. And so my husband started doing it. And so it really allows us to have our time without being interrupted by anybody or anything.
I love that. It's such a good practice. And nowadays, there are so many apps and tools and features you can do for people that need to get through an emergency. So you can take steps to,
I didn't
to
talk
allow
about that.
for
I gotta
those
look
if
at
the
that.
call. Yeah, I can't remember the setting, but it's like the opposite of do not disturb, but you can like
Hmm.
tag high priority folks where if they call, even if your ringer's off, it'll still ring.
Oh,
But I'm
okay,
not
yeah.
sure what the features call, but there is technology to help support that.
Mm,
And then likewise, on the flip side, when you get up the next morning, don't let opening your emails be the first thing you do. Just don't read the news first thing in the morning and invite that into your life, because as soon as
yeah.
you need to wake up, ground yourself. I like to have a gratitude practice, read something that makes me feel good, something spiritual, just set my mind on but that's whatever that is for you, whether that's go for a walk, drink some hot tea, but something that puts you in the right space and frame of mind for what you want to do that day versus immediately allowing something external to hijack,
That's so good, so good. Listen, you guys can tell she's passionate about this, and we can go on for the next probably 3, 4 hours. So I want to allow you to share with people that know that they need this, how you can support. Now, let me say this: those of you that are on YouTube, you can see her website. So let me say it. Those of you that are listening on audio channel, www.thebrookdaniels, and it's Daniels with an S, thebrookdaniels.com, and I'll put it in the show notes as well.
Yes, so that's the best place to go to read more about what we have. We do the lowest hanging fruit to just get involved and start getting more information is to join our newsletter. So if you go to thebrookedaniels.com, also we have a holistic hustler site, but they're connected. But you can subscribe. We like to do what we call wellness for the senses. So we send out wellness tips every day, but also just share more in the news. Like I love that there's so much science behind what we're doing now, that we try to share that information and just educate people and inform. And I would say also right now, just with everything that's happening in the world, people are really, really stressed out. And so we also try to share stories of hope. There's so many stories out there that evoke the opposite: fear and stress and
Hmm.
anxiety. And it's easy to feel like the world is on fire,
Yeah.
but you got to find peace in yourself first. And so it can't be peace in your home, peace in the world if there's not peace in you. And so we try to also share stories of hope to inspire and keep people connected to wanting to find that peace and bring goodness into the world. Um, Also, if you go to the website, it's linked to my LinkedIn, Instagram, all the things. We do free meditations as well. So the best way to find those would be through the Instagram or the meditation if you want to get involved. And then likewise, we do have a couple programs out there that you can check out that might be for you in terms of like a community, more one-on-one planning. And then a lot of the work we do is also with organizations that either want to bring this in or make this a part of their retreat experience. And so that's been
Mm.
interesting where now people are kind of burned out on the average business conference, right? Where you go to Vegas and you're in these casinos all day and it's just, people are
Overwhelming,
kind
too
of over.
much? Right.
And so more conferences are actually reached out to us to bring a wellness experience because
Mm,
executives are like, hey, I'm already here. Why not get something that's for me versus just around how I can be better in my career? How can I be better as a person? And
so
so those
good.
are some ways that we're present in the community.
So good, so good. So again, thebrookdaniels.com is where you go and find what you need. And I'm going to suggest, listen, at least follow her on Instagram, at least follow her on social media so you can start to get the free meditation. And then when you're ready for more, you know where to go to get your more. So with that said, thank you, Brooke, for so much insight. I got a page of notes. I always seem to have a page of notes. And just, allowing us to understand that we don't have to be a warrior in overdrive, that we can take the time to fill our own cup before we fill somebody else's. So I appreciate you.
Absolutely. And that's a wonderful place to leave it, like move from that place of having to power through and push to survive and
Yeah.
get to a place where we can flow to thrive.
Woo, come on, Flow to Thrive. Thank you. Drop the mic, drop the mic. Thank you, girl. So, thank you for watching or joining us for this episode. So much great insight. So, you know what I'm giving ask you to do. Number one, share below what you are committed to start doing. If you're already meditating in the morning, maybe you want to start to do the power down, like she just talked about, and start doing it in the evening as well. If you aren't meditating, then this is my invitation to you. Well, actually, it's her invitation to you to start. And Brooke has the resources you need. So reach out and find the resources so you can get the help you need. But one, I want you to share the takeaways you got and what you're committed to doing. Second, I'm always also going to ask you, in addition to sharing what you got out of this episode, come on over to YouTube or on my social media. You'll see the episode link there. I want you to also share this episode with other people, because there are people in your network that are burned out, stressed out. They've signed up for hustle instead of realizing that they can have holistic hustle. And so this conversation will teach them the value of finding rest. So thank you for joining us for this episode. And I look forward to reading your comments, and I'll see you next time on our next episode. Bye, y'all.